Hey, everybody, welcome to the Ron Line Report. Today's guest I've known for a very, very long time. He's even older than me, if you can believe that. Not by much. But please welcome, all the way from New Jersey, Mr. Vinny Galanti. What's up, Vinny?
What's up, Ron? Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, this came about because obviously we found out fairly recently that they're going to hold a Masters Olympia, which hasn't happened in years. I can't even remember the last time. It's been
2012.
Wow, okay. So it's been, a full more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And back then it was just men's Olymp. It was like a Mr. Olympia Masters, no other divisions. This time, Jake Wood, the guy who bought the Olympia, he's going all out. He's having every division. He's putting it on Romania. And I don't know if you've ever seen this Romania Muscle Fest, the staging and everything that they have over there.
I saw videos.
It's very close to the actual Olympia. So were you like, have you been hoping and praying that the Masters Olympia would come back? And what was your reaction when you found out that it was coming back?
So I think right before the pandemic, someone told me, hey, they're talking about bringing back the Masters Olympia. Get ready. And, I was still like finding my way. And as you know, in 17 and 18, I didn't do well at the Masters Baltimore Pro. And so I knew, well, if they bring it back, I'm not going to be selected. They're not even going to think of me because I really couldn't put my physique back together. And then slowly things started turning. And I got a couple of wins now and things are on a good upswing. And now that it's come to fruition, that it's actually in writing, it's going to actually happen. The only thing I can say is I can't get my hopes up just yet because they're going to announce who is invited on Monday, April 24th. So from now until then, I'm just going to train and cross my fingers, pray. And, I'm acting like I'm going into the Olympia. And if powers to be don't see fit that I step on that stage, I'll be doing the World Gary Udit's show in August. So
there was an application process for this. I'm probably not everyone's aware of this, but
yes,
the day it came out, the announcement came out, they also said, well, if you want to be considered, here's what they want from you. And it was like, I think you could do a written one, you could do a video version of it. They had a couple of options. So did you do that already?
Yes. So you had to do a written and the video was optional.
Okay.
And send a few pictures and, just tell them my history. And if they didn't know my history, then, so I wrote what I had to write. And from my earliest contest in 1984 throughout the years and my shoulder surgeries coming back from adversity. And now on social media, I was trying to find my way with this whole new school. And now that I think I have like 8 Masters Pro wins and moving forward, I get a lot of, direct messages and inspirational stuff from people online from coming back from my shoulder surgeries and how I train today and how I'm doing it. So I wrote all that out and sent it to them. And, hey, I think, everybody wants to think they're good for the sport, but, I think I'm a good ambassador. I think, I would do Jake Wood and the crew good with my name and how I'm going to present myself and the kind of posing. I already got the posing routine in my head. I know exactly what I want to do, but I'm not pushing that button yet until, we know on Tuesday morning when I wake up or whenever they announce it on that Monday, if it's late, whatever. But, we'll see. I'm holding I think I have a good feeling, but you never know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if this was just the Masters Mr. Olympia, where it's just going to be like an open Olympia and, you could do, obviously you could do 212. I don't know if you can make classic weight, but you could do anything you're qualified for as a master, I believe, for this. But if it was just like the Mr. Olympia, I'd say, this is probably going to be tough because I'm thinking they probably want they're not going to get these people, but they probably want like Jay Cutler, Kai Green, Chris Cormier in their fantasy. And if I'm Jake Wood, that's my like dream team. I could get all those guys back on stage again. Phil,
sure.
Actually, he's not old enough, but I think you got an excellent chance because they do have a 212 division for this classic. I have to ask you because you did do classic once.
Yes.
you're obviously a bodybuilder at heart. When you started out back in the day, that's all there was bodybuilding. But why didn't you pursue classic more? Because I always thought you had beautiful shape and symmetry. I said that's a classic physique long before the term existed. Why didn't you stick with it, or what did you prefer about bodybuilding that you just went straight back into bodybuilding?
It wasn't that I didn't prefer it. It was that I couldn't make the weight class without looking horrible.
Gotcha.
I get to around 195 pounds and I'm in shape. I get down to about 191. I'm ultra shredded, but I start losing my size. So if I push the envelope a little bit too much, I'd have to get down to 185 to make the weight. So trust me, I've thought about every scenario, how I would approach it. But in the Masters, I've done pretty decent in the 212s, and I've done very well in the open. I have a weird physique. I'm a short guy. I have a short torso, but I have long legs and long arms. So when I'm in shape, I can stand next to a taller guy and fare well. But when I'm in shape and I stand next to a guy my height who's wider, I don't fare well. And it's a strategy for me, and I know which way to go with it. So probably I would do the bodybuilding in the Masters Olympia if I'm selected.
Yeah. No, I think
but we'll see. Oh, I got time.
Sure. So I'm curious because I've gotten a little shorter as the years gone by. Have you maintained all your height, or have you come down a little bit since your glory days?
Well, I thought I was 5'8", but now I'm 5'6.5".
Wow. Oh, you didn't check? It took you that long to check? You had already gone down 1.5 inches?
No, I don't even know. I thought I was 5'8". I wanted to say I was 5'8". I was probably 5. I probably lost half an inch on my height.
Yeah, I'm down from, I believe I was a little over 5'8" at one time, not very tall anyway, but yeah, now the doctor says you're 5'7.5". I'm like, mother, I don't even want to go to the doctor anymore. But
how old are you now?
I turned 53 back in September.
Okay.
So you'll be 56 at some point. When's your birthday?
April 18th, I'll be 56.
Oh, wow. And when's this announcement coming?
April 23rd or 24th.
Oh, it should have been on your birthday. That would have been perfect.
Right. I thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, your longevity is just so impressive. I'm sure that because this is 39 years of competing.
Yes.
And, I'm sure there are people out there who've been competing for 39 or 40 years or longer, but they're probably a shadow of their former selves. Whereas, I don't know if you're the best you've ever looked in your life, but you look damn good now. I mean,
thank you.
I wouldn't look at you and say, "Oh, why didn't this guy should have hung it up like 20 years ago?" This is like a cringy, because you see you go to any even regional shows. I see guys who've been at it, just they don't know when to quit. They're all torn up, and it's just their bodies just shut down on them. So I gotta find out about the shoulder, how you came back from all that. I think we went over this before, but it still fascinates me. So what were your shoulder issues and what surgeries did you have?
So late 2014, I tore my right shoulder and I needed 9 anchors to repair it. I tore the entire rotator cuff off.
Okay.
I had surgery. I was supposed to have surgery in the middle of January in 15, but I got called. We could do it on New Year's Eve. So I did the surgery on New Year's Eve.
Oh,
and, it sucked. And then a year later, I tore the left side and I needed 5 anchors to repair that. So I was pretty much out of real training for 3 years after all of that. Yes, I've had longevity, but I also needed to find my way again to come back and compete. Because when I first started competing again in 17, I did the Masters Baltimore Pro and I didn't look good. I wasn't ready. Came back in 18, took dead last again. 2 years in a row, took dead last. And I just didn't have that training under my belt yet. I was still scared to actually train. And then, I've said this elsewhere, where I came back from the Masters Baltimore Pro in 18, and I saw that the NFL had done a little clip on Tom Brady and how he applies his off season, what he does in his off season. And I started to think, like, you know what? I'm not a younger man anymore. I can't take advantage of eating not so great in the off season and expecting to put this together for a contest, because it came pretty easy to me in my younger days. and it wasn't coming easy now. So I was like, how am I going to do this? So I started to incorporate rest days, because I think at the time, the big fad was, no days off, and everybody was like, get up at 4 a.m. and, all that hoorah kind of stuff. Right. And I'm thinking, no, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to get my rest. I'm going to do things systematic. I'm going to make sure I get 3 days of rest a week. I can't recover like I used to. And so I took on a motto of focus on what you can do and don't even pay attention to what I can't do. So I never was a strong guy to begin with. I was a guy that could handle close to moderate weight, like light, moderate weight, focus on a pump, and I would grow. And anytime that I went too heavy, I would just get injured or a tweak, or I'm out of commission for 2 days. And so I said, okay, let's be realistic about this. I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't recover well like I used to. So I just started changing my whole game plan. And I go into the gym. There was a program that Greg Santasario from G Code Nutrition had turned me on to. Precisions of Flexion, I think it was. It was an old article out of Ironman magazine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was the first program that I followed. And it just evolved into other programs where I never had an interest in learning about training. It just never, I remember seeing a video with Sean Ray, and he was talking about, if I had to count a calorie, I would never do this. And I took that, I adapted that to myself. I'm like, look, I can go into the gym, I can train, I can eat good, I can rotate my carbs, I get in shape, compete, and I'm a threat in any show. I can win it. I come in second, third, whatever, but I'm always up in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't applying anymore. And I had to put my ego aside and say, let's redo this. Let's rethink this. So training for the Masters Pittsburgh Pro in 2019, I was systematic with every 6 to 8 weeks taking 1 week off and rested. And the way I did it, I went backwards 10 weeks before the show. So 11 weeks out, I was taking a full week off from the gym and then just keep going backwards. And I've been kind of applying that. And now, like in the last 6 weeks, I've been training probably 2 to 3 times a week, and I'll start ramping it back up now.
That's I'm saying to interrupt, but that sounds incredibly difficult for someone who really loves training and lives and breathes the gym. It had to be tough for you to pull back like that.
Well, I'm focused on the end result, and the end result is now getting to the Masters Olympia. The end result was, when I first started this whole journey, I really just wanted to step on stage at a 212 show just one more time, call it a career. And, because when I did the nationals back in the day, as you know, it was a very difficult era. I'm not putting down today's era, but it was more difficult. Like I won the USA and I didn't get a pro card.
That's right.
And I placed high in the nationals I was in the top 5 in the NPC nationals from 94 up to 2005.
Wow.
And, I was burnt out. I was done. I didn't want to live out of Tupperware anymore. I was done with the sport. I walked away from it for a couple of years and then came back and won the Masters Nationals in 2008.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my pro card. And then when I turned pro, Ron, I was burnt out. I didn't give it 100%. I didn't give it what it deserved. I shouldn't say respect it. I was just burnt out. Because at the time I was 40, 41, and I was thinking, I got to rush this. I have to do this because my time is limited. I'm going to be done. And the mindset back then was, you're going to retire. You got to retire. You're in your 40s.
Right.
And why, you're doing this so long, do something else. So I rushed it. I didn't fare well. I placed poorly. And the harder I tried, the more stressed out I was getting. And then I just wrapped it up, gave it up. And I enjoyed powerlifting for a year.
Wow.
Yeah, but nothing crazy. I'm not a powerlifter. I just wanted I needed to have a transition to do something else. If I wasn't going to compete, I wanted to do something else. And I even entertained the idea of getting into cycling. but that never came about because then I got hurt. And then I thought, like, when it was starting to heal up, I'm like, if I'm on a bike and I fall again, this isn't going to be good. So,
well, you got into competitive powerlifting in your 40s?
Yeah, I went to, I was with, at the time, well, prior, for 18 years, I was with Universal and Animal. Yeah. And I was at the booth, the cage, for all those years. And I met so many powerlifters, and a very good friend of mine, Andre Skiba and Eric Schwartz, were, Skiba has Skiba's gym in Edison, New Jersey. So I drove down there, told him, I'm going to forget everything I've learned in bodybuilding, and I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And so for 1 year, every Sunday, I drove an hour to go squat and deadlift with these guys.
Wow.
And I loved it. It was kind of like it went back to old school, It was a dingy gym. Everything was yellow and everything was bright and, but like dingy at the same time and dirty. It was great. I loved it. And the guys were all like just guys, just meatheads, just training. And I fit right in and I enjoyed it. And the beauty of that was a lot of the things that I learned from powerlifting, I actually applied to my comeback in the beginning, like the 5-3-1 method and just adding a little bit of weight. Because there was one point where I actually, a good friend of mine, Joel, I called him over. I said, hey, listen, can I get a spot? I'm doing some shoulder presses. And I had a 15-pound dumbbell in my hand, and he started cursing at me like, hey, asshole, what are you doing? Come on, why are you wasting my time? I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. I want to get 10 reps today with this. And he was like, you're dead serious. I said, yeah, I had the shoulder surgery. He's like, oh, yeah, I forgot. So I remember that day, and I remember going home at night and thinking, like, I feel like I just got ran over by a truck just by picking that 10-pound, the 15-pound dumbbell up for 10 reps. It was kind of funny. Yeah.
So your shoulders, obviously, they came back. I mean, you don't have, like arthritis or anything like really degenerative in there. It's just something that a rotator cuff tear, which is very, very common with lifters, as we know. Mm-hmm. You got that repaired. Do they feel fine now? Because they look pretty, round and full and everything. They look normal now.
So, like I said earlier, I focus on what I can do, not what I can't do. And I also focus on what I shouldn't do. There's a big difference there, right? So do I do shoulder presses? Yes, but I don't do them often. I try to keep them out of my program as much as I can. They're not very heavy when I do them. I do mostly all lateral movements for my shoulders. I gotta, be a little smart about what I'm doing. And I'm starting to realize that I probably should have been training like this since, the last 35, 40 years. It just adapts to me very well. I probably train too much with my ego. Don't we all? We all do that, right?
But that's crazy because, the late Doug Brignoli, God rest his soul, I had a little argument with him, like in private message one time about shoulder presses, because he's like, don't ever do them. And I was like, I didn't call him an idiot or anything, but that's a basic movement. You have to do shoulder presses. He's like, no. And then recently I was speaking with Logan Franklin, classic physique pro, is a much younger guy. Same thing, doesn't do any presses, just a lot of different laterals.
Yeah.
And now you say this, and I'm starting to think, tell me this, your shoulders now versus when you were pressing heavy. Do you see a major difference in the size of the fullness?
Huge. My shoulders are better now than they've ever been.
Better now. Wow. Okay.
They're denser, they're fuller, they're rounder. I got better caps. I think, as men, we want to, and this isn't something negative, but we're alpha kind of guys, and we want to go and train, right? So we think training, some shoulder presses, and that's all great. But when you put that aside and say, okay, I want to think about development now, not just putting, a guy like Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler, they can do those kind of movements and they get something out of it. A guy like me, I'm more built like a Lee Labrada kind of guy. And me personally, well, I don't know what Lee did, so I can't say, but I'm kind of like that, more stature like that. Mm-hmm. And I find as I've gotten older, the pressing movements really don't do much for me except hurt my elbows, hurt my shoulders. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they cleaned out all the arthritis in my shoulders. I feel my knees more than anything. Like I know when it's going to rain. My knees and my lower back They're like, Vin, don't go do anything for the next 2 days.
Yeah, that's funny because you just put up a clip on your Instagram. What's your Instagram? So we'll put it in the description. It's Masters.
It's Vinny Galanti _
Vinny Galanti _ You were doing barbell rows with, I think it was more than 315. I think it was like 3 plates, and you might add like another plate on the side.
Barbell rows?
Yes, it was a barbell row. I remember.
No, it was 185.
Whatever. Was it? No, are you sure? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not rowing 315. I know.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, your lower back, your knees hurt obviously, but your lower back, in your 50s, it's still you're still able to do things like barbell rows and squats.
Yes, but like I said earlier, I focus on what I can do, not what I can't do. So the whole thing is like, I do all my compound movements last. So I'm fully warmed up, and I start out with a 25-pound plate on each side. And if I feel anything weird, I don't move forward. I don't do the exercise. Okay. Then I'll focus on more of a hammer row where I'm supported. But I really do feel that the compound movements still make the physique look completely different. So I try to keep them in there with the basic squat. But my squat right now is on a good day, it's 275. Normally it's 225. I don't go, I'm not going to do anything silly anymore.
You don't want me to cry, so I'm not even going to get into what I used to squat versus when I squat. But
no, I know.
The thing is, a lot of us, when we're at this point, we start to wonder, should I have been training the way I am now all along?
Yeah.
Or was I better off doing the heavy compound movements and doing them, like when we were kids, like Jose talks about this a lot of time. He'd walk in the gym, 225 first warm up set of squats for he just would do a couple reps because he had to get to 315 and 405 and things that would destroy our joints now. But
right.
Looking back, do you think the way we did it back then as these young ego lifter kids, was that a good way to train based on how young we were and the way that we did respond to it?
No, I think we did what we had to do, and I think it was correct and it was right. I was never one of these guys who tried to do a 1 rep max or even a 3 rep max. I always stayed in the confines of nothing less than 8 reps, no more than 15 reps. So I never went that heavy, but some days I did, and probably that shouldn't have been in my routine. But for the most part, yeah, I think what we do is what was needed at the time. Now we don't recover like we used to. So we have to approach it a little differently. And when I walk into the gym, I look at the clock and I'm like, okay, my warm up doesn't count when I look at the clock. 15 to 20 minutes, I give myself to warm up. I don't rush the warm up. You got to respect the warm up. And, around 15 minutes into it, I start to move into the workout. And my first exercise usually is still part of the warm up. Mm-hmm. So for instance, if I'm doing back, I'm warming up, I'm putzing around, doing some pull downs. I walk over to another machine, do a couple of reps on a row, just keep moving the body around. I'm on the turf, stretching out a little bit, go back to another machine. Once I start feeling warm, then I move over to probably like a plate loaded row, like a seated row. And then just keep moving and get my elbows warmed up. The last thing I'm doing is a barbell row. And I don't deadlift all too much anymore unless it's on the Smith machine, almost like a rack pull. I'm not, when you see my workouts, they're not impressive if you work out with me, you're tanked. But when you watch it, it's not like, oh, I want to do what Vinny's doing.
Yeah. It's funny because, we're both the generation. We knew what life was like before Instagram and YouTube and all that and TikTok. So, I always believed I wanted to be strong. I think we all did. That was just an alpha thing and you're in the gym. But right. To me, it was always about the physique. I was always conscious of that. Whereas now I see, especially a lot of these young aspiring fitness influencers or whatever, they don't have much of a build and they're just always trying to show off with deadlifts and squats. It's usually deadlifts and squats because it's kind of hard to fake a good bench press, but you can fake a good squat or a deadlift. It just seems like they've gotten away from the physique, building the physique and using the weights as a tool, as a means to an end. Whereas now they're worried about just showing off and look how much I can squat. Look how much I can deadlift. I'm better than you.
Yep. Yeah. So, when you and I would walk into a gym when we were in our 20s, 30s, we had a couple of magazines, Muscular Development, right? Ironman, Flex.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of guys in the gym that had more experience than we did. And it was a different era. We would walk over to them, we would talk to them. What did you do for your quads? What did you do for this? And you would try to apply that. It was like kind of a brotherhood camaraderie, a little bit different than it would have. I mean, there was still, ego involved, but it was different than it is today.
Right.
Today, I'll joke with guys in the gym and say, wouldn't it be awesome if you had a IFBB pro who had 40 years of experience that you could pick your brain with? And they'll be like, yeah, wouldn't that be great? I'm like, hello, I'm standing right next to you. And like, oh yeah, but you're a guy in the gym now. Like, they don't get. I'll walk over to guys and I go, hey, I just want to show you something. And I correct their form and they say, holy cow, like that's amazing. I feel it. I walk away and they go right back to what they're doing because it's not impressive on video.
Yeah.
And that's what they focus on more. And you know what? I don't know if I'm going to say that I wouldn't do it this today.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I can't. It's a whole new generation, and I'm just focusing on the guys who are over 40 now, because the guys under 40, they don't care what I have to give or offer.
Nope.
And I started to realize that. And if a young guy wants advice, I'm there for them.
Yeah.
Totally there for them. But I'm not going to try to twist somebody's wrist and twist their arm and try to like give them advice, because they're not going to. They don't listen.
Yeah,
and it's fine.
I find it so ironic because when you talk about that, like we used to try to find the guys who were older and experienced and had the physiques, and I would always try to bug them. I'd wait until I felt comfortable enough, and then I'd start trying to get some information out of them. And now I find that the young guys in the gym, they not only do they know everything, but they think if you're like over 40, you're a moron, you're ignorant. Like we come from the Stone Age, like I don't know what lifting rocks or something and eating like berries off the ground. I don't know. But like you said, I can't fault them because we didn't have that technology. And I bet I would have been on Instagram and YouTube. If that had been around back in the day, I'm sure I would have taken advantage of it. So can't hate on these kids.
No.
But the one thing I did want to ask, I probably have asked this before, but it took you so long to turn pro, to get your pro card, because it was a different era. Like you said, the 93 USA, when you won the middleweights, now the top two middleweights at the USA get a pro card. The top two in the nationals, I think it was always the winner before. There's a lot more pro cards these days. Let's just put it that way. Looking back, do you wish you had come along later, or do you wish? It seems like if I was in your position, I'd be like, man, it took me that long to turn pro, and these kids today, boom, a couple shows.
Well, so with that being said, one, the answer is no. I'm glad I got what I got out of it, and here's why. When I competed in the nationals, I had a great relationship. Well, let me go back. 1992, I won the Junior USA, my weight class, in California. And I think that's where we first met, with Wick, or a little bit before that.
Yeah, I was there.
And the first photographer I ever met was Jason Mathis.
Oh, wow.
And Jason then introduced me to Irvin Gelb. And then fast forward to 93, I called Jason and Irvin Gelb maybe 2 months before the contest to say, after the nationals, I'm coming out. I'm going to love to do a photo shoot with you. Because if you remember back then, you would do the photo shoot. It was completely free. Yep. The photographers would try to sell the pictures to the magazines. So year after year, I would do that, and it escalated to having close to 15 covers, probably like 25 features from all the magazines.
Yeah.
From that, it escalated into guest posing around the country. From that, it went around the world. So I got to travel the world, where these influencers, they're not training for bodybuilding competitions. They're training for something else. So it is a completely different world. And I don't see, the money's not there today. They're not going to companies are only looking for, what's that term? That they just want to market their products online. They're not getting paid. So I was with Universal Nutrition for 18 years.
Discount codes,
all that stuff, right? Yeah. So, and guys will say like, I got my sponsor. I'm like, you got free product, and that's great. And that's awesome because before Universal, I got free product from smaller companies, and it was great. And it was a beautiful thing. But I actually got a real paycheck at the end of the month from Universal Nutrition for 18 years. And it helped with the mortgage and the car payments. It was a real thing. So people thought I was a professional for the longest time. Right. And then when I went to the Masters Pittsburgh Pro, Masters Nationals, in 2008, and I was backstage, and a couple of guys go, "I thought you were a pro already." Yeah. I'm like, "Nope, nope."
It's funny because in those years when it was so difficult to get a pro card, we had people like you that were top amateurs for years. And in most cases, those top amateurs were as famous or got as much publicity as a lot of the pros. In fact, some of the more so in a lot of cases. Whereas now, back in the day when the nationals were coming up, people would be talking about it. Who's going to middleweights? Who's going light heavies? I don't hear a damn thing anymore. I can't even tell you who the best amateurs are. They go pro so quickly now. There's no time to build a fan base, or they can make their own publicity and everything. But it's just a totally different era. And I think, like I said, there were guys like you. I mean, go back to guys like Matt Mendenhall that were tremendously popular, traveled the world, weren't pros, but were better known and made a very good living in an era where being a pro was like the very highest achievement. Very, very few people got pro cards back then.
Yeah, today, I mean, it's great. It's a business, right? And my father taught me a long time ago that this was a business. He was a businessman, and we would talk about, where I was going, what I was doing, my goals and everything. And, he said, look, the powers to be are run. It's a fine-tuned machine. And you got to figure out within that, how do you find your way? And I just, I was pretty decent at marketing and pretty decent at, just having respect for everybody in the sport. I remember, I think, I don't know if I heard it or I read it, something that Rich Gaspari had said. The people you meet on the way up are the people you meet on the way down. Yeah. So I always took that to heart, and I tried to have a good relationship with everybody in the sport, and just, move forward and have fun and train. And if I took third in the nationals, all right, I got 7 photo shoots lined up for the week, and there's a possible cover coming out of it, and I'm possibly going to travel somewhere. And, I remember, when I won the Masters Nationals in 2008, I hadn't done much for a few years. Yeah. And so a couple things happened. So I win the Masters Nationals, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to call the photographers, and nobody wanted to shoot me because the sport had completely changed. And I got a call maybe 2 weeks later. I'm like, let me just stay in shape. I get a call 2 weeks later, and it was from Flex Magazine, Muscle Fitness, and Ironman. They said, can you come out this week? All 3 were the same week. I'm like, perfect. But it was 6 weeks later.
Oof.
So I had to stay on my diet for another 6 weeks. So it was 8 weeks. Yeah. And so the sport had changed. I had to basically beg them to do a photo shoot. And I was trying to pitch it like, hey, I've been doing this for 16 years. And they really didn't care. Right. They really did not care. But then they kind of thought about it, I guess, and they got me out there. And I did a couple. I got into 7 articles, and I got on a cover, which was great. And it's a business, and everything changes, and you have to change with it.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a great job of adapting. I got to hand it to you because
Thank you.
So many. It's so easy and I fight this all the time. It's so easy to just say, oh, just get bitter about it. Say, oh, Instagram and this and that, and these supplement company, you can't. Things change. Nothing stays the same forever. You have to adapt, and that's just the way it is.
Well, I had my 15 minutes of bitching and moaning. I did. I'm not going to lie. But then I thought, like, regroup. Let's go in another direction. What you used to do isn't working anymore. And, hopefully now, in April, I get invited to the Masters Olympia. It'll be really cool.
Yeah. Last question I want to ask you, because I think this is relevant for anyone who's over 40, especially over 50. Do you stay a lot lighter and leaner now? I mean, I don't remember you ever really bulking up and getting like bloated looking in the first place, but it seems to me from your social media that you stay a lot leaner year round than you ever did before. Am I right?
Yeah, pretty much. Listen, I enjoy food. Honestly, I do. I enjoy a beer every once in a while. I enjoy candy. I enjoy pizza. I enjoy all those things.
Yeah.
But you have to have discipline to know when to cut it off and in moderation, right? So we're bodybuilders, so we got to get our 6 meals in, or whatever we do, right? 4, 5, 6 meals, and we have to make sure we're in kind of striking distance. When I came back, when I came after 17 and 18, my mindset was, okay, what's the best you ever looked? And the answer was a light heavyweight. So I knew that whatever I fall into, it's going to be under 198 and a quarter. So that has been my target in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's funny you're asking me this question, because right now I'm 209. Last year, kind of like at this time, I was about 10 pounds heavier, and I thought that was too much. And last year in general, earlier in the year, I had I dislocated my right middle knuckle, and then found out that the bone was broke. So I was training for the world, kind of like more than half the prep with a broken hand. And things were all off last year. Last year wasn't my best year, but I kind of think like it was a blessing in disguise, because when you have a loss, you kind of like it puts you in perspective of like, hey, you slipped a little bit, and that's okay to slip. Yeah. It's what you do after that. So now I kept my body weight a little bit lighter this time. Yes, I just got past everyone, like everyone else, got past the holidays. I enjoyed some food, but I can see my abs. I'm not ripped or anything like that, but I can turn it on at 8 weeks out if I needed to. Like if somebody said to me, hey, they're putting a Masters Arnold in 8 weeks, I can suffer for the next 8 weeks if I had to. Yeah. I don't want to, but I mean, I could do it.
So you can get in contest condition now, even now at this age, in 8 weeks.
I'm not saying I'd be 100%. I'd probably be about 90%, but I can do it where I'd be respectful looking, and I would not look like a fool on stage.
Right.
Not that I want to do it. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, I'm saying that's a good to be that close, striking distance, as Lee Haney said. I think that's a great thing, because man, it sucks. You've never been really fat, but man, let me tell you, trying to go from a roly-poly guy to shredded, oof.
Well, no, I did get out of shape when I had my shoulder surgeries. I shrunk down to about 180, and my stomach was fat. I was eating Skittles for dinner. I was depressed. No, I'm being serious. I was depressed, and just didn't know how I was going to get out of this hole I was in at the time. I mean, I lost so many friends at the time. I mean, my patience was short. People wanted a lot from me, and I just didn't give them what they were looking for. And, lost some friends. I was depressed. I was fat. I was out of shape. Looking back, I don't even know how I even thought of like, hey, let's do this again. Yeah. Because it's kind of like crazy story for me to even think back and look at what I did. And, hey, listen, I'm just like everybody else. When I get in the car, I'm putting on YouTube and listening to motivational videos. Yeah. And the one thing I'll say this, the one thing that has been the focal point has been discipline more than motivation or anything else. Because for me anyway, once I find my discipline to make sure I get all my meals in, make sure I know to rest and not push the envelope, to pull back, to move forward. Once I have that kind of discipline and you start to see the results, then you start getting motivated. Because I think everybody looks for motivation I got to find my motivation. Right. And you're never going to find your motivation. Because so here's something that a lot of people don't know. So on Tuesday mornings, I go to a men's prayer group at St. Paul's Church in my town. And they always say like, hey, you can pray for anything you want, but if you don't get off your ass and make a move, God's not going to help you.
Yeah.
So you got to get off your ass, and you got to challenge yourself. You got to motivate yourself. You got to have discipline, and you just have to move forward in whatever your goals are.
Yeah. No, it's you echo something. There's something similar to that I've heard many times. It's a great variations in motivational quotes about, it's not just getting up and doing what you need to do when you feel like it or when you're motivated. It's doing the same consistently, going to the gym and eating those meals, even when it's the last thing you want to do, because that's when brick by brick, that's how you get to where you want to go. Whereas other people sitting around like waiting for some burst of motivation from the sky or from somewhere. And, good luck with that. Good luck.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen, I didn't know, where it was going to lead me after I took dead last 2 years in a row. I just knew that I couldn't end it that way. I couldn't walk away from the sport that way. And like I said earlier, I just wanted to do one more 212 show. That's all I really wanted to do. I said, let me do the Masters Pittsburgh Pro, and then let me think about something maybe next year or a couple months later in a 212 show. Because I would love to do the New York Pro one more time. And for me, it's not like trying to win it. It's more like I've come this far. Not like when I did the New York Pro back in 2009, 2010, 13 when I retired, I didn't give it 100%. Now I think sometimes like I'm a realist too. Like, how's that going to benefit me if I do it? Or when I'm 65 in 10 years, I'm sitting on a couch. Oh man, I should have just done that. Regardless of the outcome, I should have just done it. And then that chapter of my life is over, and I could focus, I'll focus on the Masters Olympia, Masters World, and move forward. I'm not saying I'm doing it. It's like in the process of my head, like, does it make sense? I don't know. So
you've done it.
Trying to be realistic.
So I think you did the New York Pro twice. Am I right? You did it in 2009?
3 times.
3 times. Okay. This is completely inaccurate, but I only show 2. I mean, that's a show that a lot of guys from the tri-state area say that's like our Olympia. It's like everybody, it's a lot of prestige. It's like bragging rights to win that show. So, everyone from Victor, Evan, a lot of local people have won that show over the years, and it's a badge of honor. It's something they can carry with them forever. So I'd like to see you back in that show.
So thinking about what you said earlier, like, do you regret not turning pro earlier?
Yeah.
The only thing I don't regret it because it's the way life happened. I wish that it didn't take me so long to turn pro, only because I was so burnt out mentally and just I couldn't muster up the energy to apply it. And I was just spinning my wheels. That's the only thing. And I found that again, and I found my energy and love for the sport. I tell you, Ron, before my feet hit the ground in the morning, I really am thinking about what am I training that day. And I do get like, oh, fuck, I have to take off today. It's like, oh, man, I got to rest this shit, and like, how many clients do I have later so I can fill the day in?
Yeah, I'm stuck, man. I know I need to rest more, and I just don't. But maybe I'll get some inspiration from you now.
Well, I have 2 people that work on me. I got this girl, Melissa, who does my stretching and cupping and all that stuff. And I have a guy, Nick, who is like a madman with stretching. And he does all of this like science-based kind of stretching. It's not just like taking your leg over your head and stretching you. It's manipulating trigger points and then stretching the muscle. It's borderline torture. And it's not fun or enjoyable, but it enables me to both of them, Melissa and Nick, both keep me training. And I found, I don't know if you remember the name. I'm going to botch his last name up. I'm not going to do it justice. Emmerich Denzig from
Delzig,
from
Bulgaria.
Romania.
Romania. Okay. One of those places.
Yeah. So he turned me on to Humanifort, and I've been using that. And I'll tell you, that has been the key to my recovery and how when I go into the gym, not a pre-workout feeling, but a feeling of like, I can just keep going. Like I didn't even feel like I just blew my back apart and trained like a madman. I could actually go do more rows. And from that product, my digestive tract is working better than it's ever been. And those three things: recovery, I didn't mention, sleep, energy in the gym, 4 things, and digestion. Those 4 alone have made my career better, just in a personal standpoint, because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Because when I was a child, when I was a baby, I had emergency surgery called pyloric stenosis. Now, my doctor said that my stomach issues over the years have nothing to do with that, but it's the only thing I could think of. I've never been regular in that sense, and I've always had digestion problems and always had a gut issue. But since I've been taking Humanifort, I can't I can't recommend enough for any guy over the age of 40, over 50 who has digestion issues. You got to take the Humanifort for that alone. And you can look up Emmerich on Facebook. Yep. He's a world of knowledge, and just a lot of other things I've learned from that guy that's helped me this past year.
Yeah, I remember that. Jeez, I remember Emmerich from I think the 90s. He was out in LA at times. I don't think he ever lived there, but that's how I knew him. Emmerich,
he was on the Olympia stage with Haney.
Yeah, that's right.
So he understands. He's got them. He's like in his 70s and he's training.
Wow,
really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. That still sounds old to us because we're still in our 50s, but yeah, we'll be there eventually.
Yeah, we're way down the
road. Yeah, I mean, you're knocking on 56, man. You're still killing it. So big props to you, Vinny. Jeez.
Thank you. Because it's all about just putting things in perspective. And like tonight, I was in the gym, and I'm working out. I got a guy I train with every now and then, Juan. And he's incline benching 225, and I didn't go past 135. Did it click in my head? Oh, I would love to do this right now. I would love to go to 185, 225. But I knew that my shoulders can't take more than 135. So I apply it with a little bit of time and attention, pausing and controlling the reps. And you just, trust me, it's taken me a long time to get to this point where I can't do what Juan does. I can't do what anybody else does. And I just stay in my own lane, focus on me, and just try to get the job done and enjoy this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great phrase for all the older guys to remember. Focus on what you can do, because otherwise you go out of your mind every time you go to the gym. Like, wah, especially my gym. My gym is like full of kids that can squat and deadlift a ton. It's ridiculous. Like we have 12 squat racks in my gym, for example.
Nice.
And deadlift platforms, it's ridiculous. So, but I try to remember. You did that when you were their age too, kid. Don't time goes by. So anyway, man, thanks for taking the time. And yeah, I'm very much hoping you get that invite and you get to be on that Olympia stage, because man, you put the time in,
thank you.
You've really been around a long time, and like you said, you've always been a stand-up guy. You've always been good to everyone in the industry, and you have a great reputation.
Thank you. Yeah, if I get invited, I think I'll break down and cry.
Yeah, I would. Sure.
Oh, I know I'm gonna. I can feel emotional right now, thinking, God, if that really happened, like I'm gonna be on a stage, an Olympia stage. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. I missed out on that when I was younger, so now here's the time.
God willing, or as our Muslim friends say, inshallah. Let's hope it happens, Vinny. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you for sure. So, guys, thanks for watching this. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up thing for like, share the video, and of course, leave some comments here. We love your feedback. Maybe Vinny will even check in on the comments and get back to you. Who knows? If you're lucky. Awesome. Yeah. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching the Ron Line Report with this man, Vinny Galanti. We'll see you next time. Hey, did you like that video? Smash that like button, subscribe to MD, and please comment down below. Thanks for watching.